Hello and welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. Quite a few of you have watched the video I put up the other day of this rifle that had come to me. Somebody I know wants it and they wanted it checking out and seeing what it was like. It's a fairly old rifle, it's probably 20-25 years old, I'm really not sure. And it's a CZ527 in 223. My friend said, will you just take it shooting, give it a look over, make sure everything's correct about it and it's still okay. It's a longish barrel and they're probably going to have it shortened and screw cut, recrowned, etc. anyway for a moderator, but let's go through what I did with it. So the first thing I did was, obviously I gave it a look over, checked it was clear, made sure I can operate the bolt, make sure the trigger works, dry firing safety catch, magazines all there, etc, etc, etc. But I haven't really done anything technical with it up until 2 days ago. I took it to the range with me and shot it. I had cleaned it, I had bore scoped it. The bore scope photos were excellent. There didn't appear to be any corrosion whatsoever within the rifle, which is, I wouldn't say unusual, but it's nice to see when there's absolutely nothing, because to be fair, I sometimes get brand new rifles of 10 times the value of this with slight pitting in them. Machining marks, etc, etc, and this CZ doesn't have that. CZ do make very good barrels. So from the initial inspection, yes, timber stock, there's the odd scratch and scrape on it, but that's just the patina of life. There's a little one here, just near where the bipod might have been, and there's a couple there from the magazine. It's a 5-round magazine, it's a steel magazine. There's a tiny little, nope, that's just a little orange mark there. It's nothing to worry about at all. Some people said, is it a set trigger? No, it's not a set trigger, it's a single stage trigger. But let's go through some of the details I've seen since. Common factor you'll see sometimes, because people said, tell us about what you look for in second-hand rifles. Sometimes you can get some real gems with second-hand rifles. Now, one thing you'll notice on this is you'll see the bluing is rubbed off around the muzzle there. Now, that's not a problem with the crown or corrosion or anything like that. That is literally a factor of people sliding the rifle into a rifle case and it just rubs down there and it just takes a bit of the bluing off. It's really no big deal at all. It is missing its rear iron sight, and it would appear it's probably missing the shield for over the top of the front iron sight. But as discussed, this will come off and it's going to be cut off anyway. So starting off, let's have a look at some of the dimensions on this, because it did give quite good muzzle velocity figures, and I'm not surprised because it is in fact a 24-inch or 610mm barrel. Now that is what a lot of manufacturers still measure at, especially on varmint rifles or 223 like this. So that was doing, if memory serves, I'll put the chronograph image up on screen, but about 3,100 feet per second, which is a good figure. It's faster than any of my 223s, but my 223s are all 20-inch barrels anyway. Other things I'm going to do now, I'm going to take the bipod off it. It came with sling swivels, but I just popped those off because I wanted to put a bipod on it just to make it easier to shoot, and I'll pop it down here now. So overall length on the rifle is 42 inches or 1,065 millimeters. Length of pull is 13 5/8, 347 millimeters, thereabouts. Other dimensions you'd like of it, you'll probably want to know what the trigger weight is. So it's actually a very crisp trigger. I was very happy shooting it. I'll weigh it for you. Make sure that's in grams first. Now these things are very good, but they do rely on you actually drawing them at a consistent speed, and if you just yank at them, you'll probably get an unnecessarily light reading, whereas if you squeeze slowly or just pull them slowly, you do get slightly more repeatable results. So I'll just click ready on that, place that on there, and then just draw it very slowly, adding pressure just like you would to squeeze the trigger, and it breaks. 1,436 grams, which is £3, 2.7 ounces. But let's just do it again and see if we can make that consistent. I'll ready that again, go back to grams, just draw steadily on it. 1,476 grams, which is £3, 4.1 ounces. Seems reasonably consistent. I'm certainly not worried about that. And importantly, that sort of weight trigger, which is 1.5 kilos, about just over £3, means it's a hunting rifle. You can shoot it with gloves on, you can shoot it with cold fingers in the winter. There's plenty of space in the trigger guard, both front and behind, so there's no issues with snagging the trigger or anything like that. And you can, this is a safe dry fire, you can just place your finger onto that trigger and just give it a squeeze, and it is very crisp and predictable and seemingly very consistent. Now looking at the safety catch, it's actually rear for fire with bolt operation and forward for safe with bolt lock. Bit of a quirk of some CZ rifles, they tend not to do it now. Virtually every rifle now has forward for fire, rear for safe, and there's often a middle position safe with bolt operation, but that is essentially fine. It's a 2-lug bolt and you've got a full length extractor claw. Now, I did explain this in the little preview video, but essentially what that means, and I don't really want to handle brass on camera in case it upsets YouTube, but that means that when the case comes up in the magazine, let's just pop the magazine out. Let's just see if I can give you a demonstration of this. So the bolt is going to sit somewhere like this relative to the magazine. So the magazine pushes the case rim up behind this controlled feed bolt face, so that actually when you push the bolt forward it just goes straight along the magazine and feeds into the chamber. It's usually a very smooth, reliable system. Now I've had quite a few supposedly best guns which are very badly configured with this because it does need some refinement, yet CZ's factory made rifles do seem to be able to make it quite consistent. Now I shot it with 2 types of ammunition in the review when I was testing it, some Remington 50 grain and some Hornady 55 grain Varmint Express. The Remington didn't shoot as well as the Hornady. The Remington also didn't feed quite as well as the Hornady. I can't really give you a specific answer for why that was. It could just be the fact that this rifle, although it's been kept oiled and stored correctly, just hasn't been used for probably 15 years. And I think, in fairness, I don't think it was used very much before it was sort of put in an inheritance project, if that's not giving away too many details. There's just very little mechanical wear or scratches on anything on inside of the magazine, or the magazine well, or the action itself. And even brass marks on here, there just isn't that sort of long-term sort of golden mark of brass being scored up and down there. So it is in very good condition. You can see the bolt releases on the side there, fairly charismatic of this kind of rifle. Trigger on the bottom, we've discussed that. Magazine, we've discussed that. We've got sling swivels front and rear, we discussed those. Length of pull, butt plate, etc. What we didn't look at, we didn't look at the weight of it. Now it's quite a light, compact rifle, and I must admit, if I needed another 223, this one is just, it's just adorably wantable, or desirable, I think is a slightly better English phrase that. So if we just put this into grams and pop that on there, we've got an overall weight of 2,715 grams. As I said, it's very desirable. Now if you imagine you're going to chop this possibly down to a 20-inch barrel, you're going to lose you're going to have the gun basically at that size, not at this size. And 20 inches is still a great foxing tool or pest control tool. I would happily shoot that. Now the forend is actually free floating. There's not a huge amount of sort of hand space on it if you've got bigger hands, but that's not to say you can't, you know, comfortably shoot it and hold it without touching the barrel. And the joy of it is it's just such a light, delicate, pointable rifle. It's got a Hogsback cheek piece on here, so it does slope away slightly, a little bit more of a characteristic design. And of course, one of the factors that draws over from this was originally an iron sight rifle from a brand where iron sights were still fitted from a sort of now this one did come with scope mounts. The scope mounts are still on the scope here, I've just popped it off. I think these might be millet mounts, they're steel. They're also actually windage adjustable. You can actually tweak those slightly when they're on gun if you need lesser or more windage factor. But essentially there's a dovetail on here which I think is most likely going to be about 17mm. But I can't remember every unit of every rifle that's ever been made, unfortunately. So if we just pop in there, 16.2-ish millimeters. That's that. So they do need proprietary CZ mounts, but there are quite a few companies do make them compatible for that. While we've got the verniers, let's just have a little look at the muzzle diameter. It is 13.94mm. So you can still get that threaded, no problem at all. You might go for maybe a 1/2 inch UNF thread on that. And of course, if you come back 4 inches, there is a straight taper on the barrel up to the reinforce, so it would get slightly larger as it came back. Essentially, I don't know, can I mention the price of this rifle? Because I know what it's being sold for. It is literally peanuts. It's very desirable, it's very buyable, and other than the fact it's not got, you know, like Picatinny rail or it's not got an adjustable stock or adjustable length of pull, all these factors, it is an absolute classic sporting rifle from a brand, a European brand, from a, you know, a country. I find the Czechs, they just make good gear. They just seem to have that manufacturing essence within them, and I have no doubt, were I looking for a rifle and I'd have been presented with this, I'd be straight down to the gunsmith, I'd have 4 inches chopped off the barrel, it would be screw cut, it would have a moderator put on it, mounts on it, and there we go, I'm going shooting. Because this thing shot yesterday. Now, let me give you some technical information. I shot about, I don't know, 15-20 rounds through it. I didn't find the need to shoot any more because the conditions weren't exactly, you know, indoor range conditions. But the Hornady Varmint Express at 100 meters, shot from a bench with a bipod on it and a rear bag with a 4-12 scope, which is here. That shot a 31mm group centre to centre at 100 meters. Now you might say, oh, that's rubbish, isn't it? Well, that's a 31mm group in real world conditions. 100 meters is 9% further than 100 yards. Technically speaking, minute of angle at 100 meters is 29mm. Now the wind yesterday was blowing between 10 and 12 miles an hour, and I wasn't really making any allowances for it because I'm quite happy with what the gun did in the conditions it did. So don't let that worry you too much at all, because I am totally confident in this gun. And that's really all I can say. That is what I would tell you about a rifle I review. You know, the checkering on this still seems in good condition, it's still grippable, and so much of, you know, so many people are obsessive about how small are the groups, how small are the groups, how small are the groups, yet they can be completely dismissive of the handling characteristics of a rifle. And I was thinking about this yesterday. In simple terms, I've had some rifles that fundamentally, in terms of their mechanics, were essentially incredibly precise, incredibly accurate and consistent, but and you know, they would shoot tiny groups on target, fantastic. But they had A, sometimes no character, B, possibly quite horrible ergonomics. And the ergonomics to me are the key factor in how easy it is to make a rifle shoot. I'll give you an example. If you get a very crisp 6-pound trigger, some people will be able to shoot that rifle from a stable position extremely well. Other people just will not. I'm not saying that's necessarily what you want of a trigger, but it gives you the differences in what different people want. Now, I could shoot that rifle very accurately from a bench. I wouldn't want to shoot it, you know, from an unsupported position, trying to time a shot in the field or in a hunting scenario. 3 pounds, 4 pounds is much better for me. But some people might want a super light trigger, and they think, oh, they go to the range, you know, once a week, shoot 5-10 rounds to it, think you can shoot tiny little groups. They go out hunting in November, they go deer stalking, and they've got gloves on, their hands are so cold they can't even touch the trigger for fear of it going off, and set triggers are a terrible example of this. So is that suitable for those conditions? No. And this is where the ergonomics and, you know, the human interface of a gun is so important. And I've often shot rifles that I thought were fundamentally not amazingly capable on paper, but they were a joy to carry, a joy to hunt with, just a joy to operate. You know, they had a magazine system that was easy to use. They had total reliability in terms of, maybe I might have had a floor plate. You can't lose a floor plate, can you? Or, you know, the safety catch system, some are better than others. Some of them are very quiet. You can operate them without any disturbance at all. Other safety catches, it's almost impossible to operate silently. Similarly, opening and closing the bolts on rifles. If you're going out at night and you spook a fox and you're pretty close to it, and you know, you're maybe not out the vehicle or not ready to shoot, you'd like a rifle where you can really slowly close that bolt and shut it down without making an, you know, undue noise. Similarly with the safety catch. Fire, well, you may hit it, you may miss it, hopefully you'll hit it, but if you miss it at close range because it's a rushed shot, it doesn't always necessarily run away. So do you want a rifle where you can very quietly open that bolt up and bring the bolt back and close the rifle and take another shot? Now, I'm not saying this rifle is or isn't that rifle, but there are some rifles that have got very fast actions in ideal conditions that become very noisy if you're trying to operate them at, you know, any speed. They are noisy, but they're very fast for that. Whereas you get a regular turn bolt rifle, they are generally a lot quieter. But if it's overcomplicated and there's all sorts of fixes and fittings everywhere, it's going to be noisy. You look at a nice wooden stock like this, well, that is not going to snag on any clothing. You can walk around with it, you know, comfortably, and when you know, take it from your shoulder or whatever to get into a safe position to fire, you're not going to snag it on your belt or in a pocket or something like that. Whereas, you know, an adjustable stock, very nice as they are for position and precision and accuracy, you've often got cutouts here, there and everywhere. You've got sharp edges, corners, angle, hooks, books, things like that, and it will snag. So, you know, horses for courses, and this all comes down to the usability and love of the rifle, and all the things that I'm concerned about are not just how small a group it will shoot in paper, because I could hand load for this rifle, it would probably shoot a little bit better still, and I'm quite confident that this rifle will shoot sub MOA in ideal perfect conditions on indoor range or when there's no wind. But it was windy 2 days ago, and those are the conditions where you have in the real world on a real hunting rifle. So given that slight sort of offset on my absolute expectation of every factory rifle does at least have to prove minute of angle for 3 shots, well, this did almost minute of angle in the wind with 5. So I have no problem with that, and this is not making any claims or promises or anything, because there are a lot of rifles still made new today, especially some of the Walmart specials. They don't have any kind of accuracy precision guarantee with them. There's no MOA 3-round groups promised like Seiko do or Tikka do or someone like that. So there we go. Right, I hope you've enjoyed that little video, and I've actually really enjoyed shooting this rifle. It's just a complete change from the norm. I mean, I took this to the range with a £3,500 Seiko and a £2,500 Beretta, and a brand new CZ600 actually, which is £1,500 I think, 600 range. And yes, that was very nice to shoot, but fundamentally I enjoyed shooting this one just as much. And you know, let's just say the £1,300 of difference would pay for an awful lot of ammo and nice optics. So there we go. Right, hope you enjoyed that. Please like, subscribe, comment. Your comments drive the channel. Comment on what you think of what I've said, what you think about these pieces of kit I might have, what you'd like to see on the video, whether I can or I can't do them. And you know, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell, because the notification bell will tell you immediately when there are new videos online, because I'm usually getting at least 1 or 2 every week. And please go through to the end of the video, click on the link for the British Shooting Show 2024 tickets, and there's also a promo code for Military First. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.